not doing their job properly. So it's so it's one thing to say that it should be available for everyone to see and learn from, but it's also painful at the same time. So I am definitely split, like, as to what should be done in this case. I would like to ask your opinion.
Well, Prabhu, you gave the example of Bhaktisiddhanta and the Gopi pastimes with Krishna. That we can understand is different. He was not wanting Krishna and the gopis to be converted into sex objects for the ignorant public. And I agree with that 100%. But Prabhupada is not in that category. Hiding Prabhupada, the truth of Prabhupada is not the same thing as hiding the truth of the gopis. And it's not private. Prabhupada wanted 5,000 disciples to come. Sat Swarup sent out a message. I was ready to get on an airplane to come to Vrindavan in the last days. And Sat Swarup sent out the order, no, Prabhupada wants you to stay back and do the Christmas marathon instead and make money for the movement instead. So nobody came. The real reason they wanted anyone to come because nobody had seen pictures of Prabhupada emaciated and copper-colored from arsenic poisoning. You know?
Okay, I don't know that.
No, I have an issue.
No, the guys that poisoned Prabhupada didn't want anyone to come. They didn't want anyone to come because they hadn't sent any pictures. I was busy. I was designing. I was the head of the art department in Los Angeles, New York, for the BBT, and I had 15 artists working with me, and those 15 artists would produce one painting every month, and we would ask through Rameshwar. Rameshwar would collect our questions, send them to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would send the answers back. We had no idea that Prabhupada was emaciated. We had no idea that Prabhupada was copper-colored. All we knew is we were painting the pictures for the Srimad Bhagavatam. I personally supervised the paintings of the Srimad Bhagavatam from 5th canto to 10th canto. And so
nobody checked on him?
Yeah, the people checking on him were the people that were there. But they didn't want anybody else to come unless they were part of the profiteering group. To give you an idea of profiteering, Bhavananda, Sudama was going to go back to Hawaii, where he was the GBC, and Bhavananda came up to Sudama. Sudama told me this personally before he died, years before he died, and he said, Sudama, you can't go back now. He said, why? He said, in a few days, Prabhupada is going to leave his body, and we're going to be dividing up the world. That's what Bhavananda said to Sudama. So does it any surprise that they would throw him into his samadhi?
Injustice.
Desecration. Desecration of a pure devotee.
Wow. That's how we all end up.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hopefully not.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Hare Krishna.
Well, we need to recreate ISKCON. You see, everyone says, "Oh, ISKCON went haywire at the end. They didn't. The ritviks didn't become. They called themselves regular gurus, etc., etc." And no, Prabhupada knew exactly what was going on. He knew exactly who was doing what. He knew exactly. Do you think Prabhupada could not, when Trikalagal could not see that Kirtananda was a practicing homosexual, that Bhavananda was a practicing homosexual, that some of these guys were stealing money, and some of these people were doing crooked stuff, and yet he made them into, well, he wanted to call them
like the Catholic Church.
No, he didn't want them like that. They turned themselves like that. but he wanted them to become officiating acharyas. And Tamal introduced the term Ritvik and said, well, is Ritvik the same thing? And Prabhupada said, yes. That was in the same period of time. And so Tamal wrote it out as Ritvik rather than officiating acharyas because he didn't want anyone to think that what they were supposed to be doing as so-called officiating acharyas was the same thing the temple presidents had been doing since 1970s. That they were, Prabhupada would chant on the beads, send them back, and the temple president would perform the fire sacrifice. One devotee, Hansaduta, said he didn't like doing fire sacrifices, so instead of being the Ritvik, as it were, or the officiating acharya for the fire sacrifice, he had the temple commander do it. So that was reality. It doesn't matter who does it. What matters is that it be done properly by a person who is reasonably purified by not breaking the regulated principles. Does it make any sense at all?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes. But anyhow, so getting back to your question, I'm afraid the truth has to be out.
It's okay.
Yeah, the truth is out. It can't be taken away. This is not a question of the gopis and people trying to sexualize Radha Krishna and the gopis. No, that is done there.
It's not a direct parallel. I never said that it's a direct parallel. I said it's a matter of privacy, right? Some things are private. They're supposed to be private for the family members who know what is going on here.
I get your point.
Yes. So,
like, you think that when Prabhupada asked all of his disciples to come for his last days, was that a desire for privacy?
But it is his disciples. He's not asking everyone to to come. It's just his disciples ultimately, and that's what it should be. Even though they may be cheating him, they may be stealing from him, but ultimately, just like
5,000 of them, Prabhu.
Yes,
5,000 of them. It would have been the biggest samadhi ceremony, the biggest samadhi ceremony in pretty much in the history of Vrindavan or modern day Vrindavan. Privacy would not be there. Everybody would have been filming it. It was filmed anyhow. So where's the privacy? So if there were 5,000 people there, it would have been less privacy. More publicity. Okay. More. I get your point. But
considering the
Prabhupada is not our family member. Prabhupada is the Acharya for the next 10,000 years.
But if, from privacy, what I mean is not the delineation between whether it was a public event or a private event. I'm saying if you look at the video itself, the video has thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of comments, and some of them seem to be pretty nasty comments, and they are all coming from the same point, that initial part of the video, which is painful to look at. That's where they're coming from. Because if you look at any of other videos from Prabhupada, it's never it doesn't have this kind of reception. But when a video is very graphic in that way, then it does have that reception.
So, but you don't think that by taking that out, it would be whitewashing the crime?
No, Prabhu, it's not about whitewashing. It's not that you have to change something. It's a matter of concealing versus revealing to everyone. It should still be available. As I said, this is just my opinion, of course. I wonder what your opinion is.
Look, maybe let me, first of all, be clear. I honor you. I honor your view. I honor your feelings. And I think you're almost comparing it to if your grandfather died, do you want this sort of be broadcast everywhere? But Prabhupada wasn't our grandfather.
Yes.
Prabhupada was the Acharya for the 10,000 years. Whatever they treated him, if it's a secret, it's concealing a crime, actually. Now, I don't appreciate the people who is saying negative things. These are devotees